Hi, hello, welcome to High Five. I have a very interesting discussion for us today, and that is the discussion on inner beauty, or better stated, how to become bigger and better on the inside than the outside. Now stay with me. We will go through this in the allotted time that I have for this video cast. And I'd like to read a text that is taken from St. John chapter 1 from 3 different translations. The first is the authorized or the King James Version, and it puts John 1:47 to read. And Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, and he said of him, Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. And then the Message translation or paraphrase edition puts this text to read, When Jesus saw him coming, he said, There is an real Israelite, not a false bone in his body. What an amazing translation. And then the one that I like is in the amplified rendition of this verse, which says, Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him and said concerning him, See, here is an Israelite indeed, a true descendant of Jacob, in whom there is no guile, no deceit, no falsehood, nor duplicity. It's an amazing description of Nathanael and the way that Jesus saw him. He saw him inside, and he was saying he is the same way on the outside. There is not a false bone in this man's body. Now here is a propositional statement for our discussion today. Quote, when you are better on the inside than the outside, and when you are bigger on the inside than the outside, over time you will become greater on the outside. I know a lot of emphasis is on the outside, and what the Bible emphasizes is who you are on the inside. You see, being better on the inside deals with sound character, deals with who you really are, sound character. Let me give you a reverse propositional statement. Quote, when you are better on the outside than the inside, and when you are bigger on the outside than the inside, over time you'll become less on the outside. Now, this is fleshed out for us in so many examples in our culture today. Many of the big names that we know in politics, in movies, in religion, there are a lot of people who were really big on the outside. They had great publicity. They were greatly admired across all cultures of the world. They shot to fame, and they were very popular. Big on the outside, but really they were small on the inside. Now, it is very, very disheartening to name a few people who were really big on the outside. But I hope that you are getting my point. At one time, Tiger Woods, who was great on the outside, was really small on the inside. A well-known evangelist, Javin Swaggart, at one time, he was great on the outside, but over time it revealed that he was really small on the inside. And there are many bankers, there are many politicians who were really big, huge on the outside, but they were really small on the inside. In the Bible, we read about the Old Testament king by the name of King Saul. He was really big on the outside, but when you really measured up his character as the way God sees him, he told Samuel, I don't see as men see, I see differently. While men look at the outward appearance, I look at the heart. And when God saw Samuel, as big as he was on the outside, He was head and shoulders over everybody and had a great reputation. He was really a small person on the inside. By contrast, David was small on the outside, but he was really big on the inside. And over the process of time, who he was on the inside was really, really fleshed out and became known as a person of being same on the inside as he was on the outside. The bigger on the inside person, it deals with attitude, it deals with generosity, it deals with the inner man, it deals with who you are. It is allowing your bigness to come out, your bigness inside must come out on the outside. Emerson puts it beautifully when he says, quote, "Though we travel the world over to find the beautiful, we must carry it with us or we find it not." End of quote. It is the real you. It is the number one criteria for success and a fulfilled life. Now let me try to explain my discussion with you. There is an amazing book called Leading Like Madiba, written by an African writer by the name of Marin Kolongo Banda. And it attempts to describe the character traits of Nelson Mandela, who was called Madiba. The writer painstakingly takes the time to show us 6 of the main character traits of Nelson Mandela, of who he really was, for his own stay in prison for 27 years before he really became the person for who he truly was. And that was who he was really in the inside. Over the process of time, he became that person to the world as being same on the outside as he was in the inside. Now let me give you 6 of the traits by this renowned and remarkable writer. Number 1, a person who is truly big on the inside value people more than position or power. Let me repeat. A person who is truly big on the inside value people more than position or power. There was an incident during the tenancy of Nelson Mandela as the president or the prime minister of South Africa. A wealthy businessman by the name of Peter was invited to breakfast at Mandela's palace. And the day came when the appointment was scheduled that Peter, who was a white South African, drove into the palace of Nelson Mandela. Upon reaching the palace, Mandela himself came down to meet him and invited him to his breakfast table. And while they were walking towards the breakfast table, Mandela said, "I have prepared breakfast for 2. Where is the other guy?" And he said, "No, it is just me. I alone came in, and my driver, he is in the car. He will wait until our discussion is over." But Mandela insisted that I prepared breakfast for 2, and I wanted to have you sit at my table. So while Peter sat at the table, Nelson Mandela went to the car and he saw Dominic, who was the driver. And he walked up to him and he said, "Hello, my name is Nelson Mandela and I have prepared breakfast for you. Would you mind coming to my table and join me?" Well, Dominic was shocked to have the president of South Africa, one of the most powerful men in the world, approach him, who was a mere chauffeur, and ask him to sit at his table. Well, getting right to the point, after breakfast And after the discussion, while they were driving home, Dominique stopped the car, opened the back door where his boss was sitting, and fell on the ground and said to him, "Sir, I really want to thank you for making this possible for me to meet with Mr. Mandela." And Peter, his boss, said, "Oh, that's all right, Dominique. I will do anything for you." Then it was a matter of time after they drove off the following day. Peter, the boss, came to Dominique and said, "Dominique, I must apologize. It was not my doing. It was the doing of Mr. Mandela. He volunteered to come to you and invite you to his table." So the point I'm making, a person who is truly big on the inside value people more than position or power. Mr. Mandela was not too big to go to a driver, a chauffeur, and ask him to sit at his table. Next, a person who is big on the inside inspire others because they are inspired by others. It is said that Mandela loved football or rugby, as they call it in South Africa. And one of his favorite player was a man by the name of Mark, who really inspired Mr. Mandela. And one day, after getting ready for a big game, it was said that Mr. Mandela drove up to Mark's dressing room at that rugby stadium, and he walked right up to him with permission granted, and he said, "I'd like to talk to Mark." And Mark was terrified. Here was the powerful Nelson Mandela coming to talk to him. And what it simply was, Mr. Mandela took out his shirt and he gave it to Mark, and he said, "Mark, I want you to know that you really inspire me. You really inspire me to be who I am today." And the point I'm making, you cannot really inspire others, as Mandela have inspired countless millions of people until somebody inspire you. Who it is that inspire you? So Mark took his shirt with the name and number of his team and give it to Mr. Mandela as a token. In the third place, a person who is big on the inside are secure enough to appreciate and acknowledge the contributions of others and not to see them as a threat. At one time, there was an interview by Oprah Winfrey, one that she really longed for, and the interview was with Mr. Mandela. And as you know, Oprah Winfrey is the queen of gab. She's a great talker. And in that interview, she went up, as we say in the Caribbean or in Trinidad, to big up Mr. Mandela. Now, he didn't need that. When you're big, you're big. And she started to pour accolades upon accolades about his accomplishments, about shutting down apartheid and all of that. And she was very generous with the praises going to Mr. Mandela. So there was a time in a discussion when Mr. Mandela said, "Miss Winfrey, would you please stop?" and said, "I am not deserving of all of this. There were many other great men and women in the struggle. They choose me as their symbol, and they are more deserving of the accolades you were trying to put on me." Here was a man who was humble and sincere enough to acknowledge the contributions that were made by others in abolishing apartheid. And he said, "I am merely a symbol." This is the sign of a person who is really, really big on the inside, and they are not afraid to acknowledge others who have helped them to be where they are. In the fourth place, a person who is big on the inside do not abuse others because of position and authority. In that book by Mr. Banda, it tells of the incident, or it tells of the time when Mr. Mandela invited the guard who assigned him to, or let me put it like that. He invited the guard who was assigned to him while he was in prison. At the same time also, he invited the judge who had sentenced him to Robben Island and invited them for a dinner. It was at this dinner they were eager to talk to Mr. Mandela because they had no foresight of what he would become or how powerful he would become. And the judge tried to explain to Mr. Mandela that he had to sentence him based on the evidence that was given to him by the secret agents and by the other organizations who were pro-apartheid. So after Mr. Mandela listened very carefully to the judge, he made this comment, and he said to the judge, he said, "What you told me about me, if I were you, I too would have sentenced me." Isn't that amazing? The sign of a person who is really big on the inside. There wasn't any guile or deceit on Mandela's part. He simply forgave the judge and forgave the soldiers who were assigned to his cell. But moving along very quickly, in the fifth place, a person who is big on the inside. They extend grace and forgiveness to others whom they thought they have wronged. Let me repeat that. A person who is truly big on the inside, when it comes to it, they extend grace and forgiveness to others who have wronged them or who they have wronged. Mr. Mandela forgave both the God and the judge, just as Jesus forgave those who crucified him on the cross, and just as Joseph forgave his erring brothers. Moving along to the sixth place, or the sixth sign of a person who is truly big on the inside. A person who is big on the inside acknowledges and apologizes for their mistakes. There was an instant in Mr. Mandela's tenure of office as the president of South Africa. He was asked to give a speech to Muslims in a city called Durban. And it was a time when there were terrorists attacked by Muslims in Africa and different parts of the world. In that speech, in their great mosque in Durban, he condemned Muslims who, in the name of peace, upset the rhythm of society and has become the world's terrorists and threat to peaceful societies. End of quote. 1 week later, having given this speech in this great mosque, he thought to himself, I should not have said that, because not everybody are the same. And he asked the Imam for an opportunity to address the audience once again. So he went back to that mosque in Durban and he apologized for the wholesale way of lumping all Muslims as evil, and he asked for their forgiveness. He said, I am here to say I am sorry. Please forgive me for the way I have condemned all of you. I am sorry, for there are many of you who are good and noble. I am sorry. End of quote. Now I want you to pay attention to his words. He said, I am sorry, and he received a standing ovation. He did not say sorry, but he said, I am sorry. And he was apologizing to them. For a big man to stoop to that level, it was really an act of humility. Here was a man who was in whom there was no guile, nor deceit, nor duplicity. The same could have been said about Nathanael, as our Lord Jesus had labeled him. Humility attracts and inspires. Arrogance does not. God exalts the humble, but he resists the proud. Now let us review the propositional statement I gave you earlier on. When you are better on the inside than the outside, and when you are bigger on the inside than the outside, over time you'll become greater or bigger on the outside. I know I'm addressing some of you who really are concentrating and becoming bigger on the outside. And you're doing so many promotional things, you are gathering so many titles behind your name, you are seeking consultants from advertising companies as how you can become this great person on the outside. But let me tell you, God sets up one. God is sovereign. God sets up one and puts down another. I believe your focus should be on being big or bigger on the inside than the outside, and being better on the inside than the outside, and over time you'll become greater and bigger on the outside. Now here's a credibility checklist. Number one, have you connected with your true self? If you are going to connect with others, you must connect with yourself. I believe, oh yes, it was John Maxwell who said this, and he said it beautifully. Quote, "My relationship with me determines my relationship with you." If we are good in the inside, we see people differently. If I am insecure, petty, jealous, full of anger, we don't see people as they are. We see them as we are. For the book of Proverbs says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Next question that I believe is so vitally important in becoming bigger and better on the inside: have I made my right? Have I made my wrongs right? You may have erred in so many ways, done things that you should not have done, said things that you have not said, but have you visited and tried to correct the errors of your way? In other words, when I have done something wrong, have I made it right? Or do I seek to justify my wrong? That is what bigger on the inside leaders does. They seek to make wrong right. And in the third place, am I accountable? If I am to become bigger on the inside and better on the inside, I have to make myself accountable. I am not monarch of all I survey. There is a system in place. There is a place of accountability. And the question is, does the people I relate to count on me? Am I a person that they can count on? Am I dependable? When can they count on me when it really counts? Can I be counted on? Are you dependable? When you make a commitment, you create hope. When you keep a commitment, you create trust. Let me repeat that. When you make a commitment, you create hope. But when you keep a commitment, you create trust. Number 4, am I following the golden rule? And what is the golden rule? Do unto others as I would have them do unto you. And this is very, very simple but significant. I have to follow this rule. This is a value based on rules across all cultures. In Matthew 7 and 12 it says, "Do unto others as they would do unto you." So if it is you are striding towards greatness on the outside, that job starts from the inside, and that is where God looks. In Philippians 2 and 6, it says, speaking about Jesus, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God. The Amplified Version of the Bible puts this to read, who, although he existed in the form and unchanging essence of God as one with him, possessing the fullness of all divine attributes, the entire nature of deity, did not regard equality with God a thing to be grasped or asserted as if he did not already possess it or was afraid of losing it. So Jesus was also an outside person. Who he was on the outside was the same way he was on the inside. He really had a beautiful, beautiful inside, as we say. His inside was glorious and magnificent, and may it be also said of us. You see, arrogance, which is the opposite of what I am talking about, it brings distance, it generates distance, it puts and pushes people apart. Arrogance is the quality of being unpleasing and proud and behaving as if you are more important or you know more than anybody else. With that kind of attitude, it won't take you far. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and he will exalt you in due time. So just as Jesus said of Nathanael, here is an Israelite indeed, a true descendant of Jacob, in whom there is no guile, nor deceit, nor duplicity. May this be said of you and me. There is not a false bone in your body or my body. But you see, some of us, in order to become that person, we must be born again. We must be born of the Word and the Spirit. In order to do this, confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord, and ask the Lord to save you from your sins. Ask him to deliver you, and ask him for this new birth experience. This program is called High Five and is coming to you with the prayer and the good wishes of Missions Tabernacle of William and Water Lane Streets in Princestown, Trinidad. And the lead pastor is Pastor Llewellyn McIntosh and his wife Anissy, and they are supported by Hayden Joseph, Selwyn Mohammed, and a group of fine deacons indeed, right there at Missions Tabernacle in Princestown, Trinidad, West Indies. I trust that you would focus on the person you ought to be, not so much on the person who you want people to see on the outside, but who you are on the inside will come out on the inside. And may God give you grace, may God promote you, because promotion does not come from the east nor the west, but promotion comes from above, and God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Again, I'm grateful to Aaron Jones, a remarkable and a man who is willing to serve at a beck and call. Thank you, Aaron, for putting this videocast together. Take the time to write to us and tell us from where you are viewing this videocast. Give us a like or a subscribe. My name is Anthony Kawalsingh, and I have been the host of this program, and so I am pleased to be with you. So until the next time, the Lord bless you.